Hey everybody, here's Anna again for Wine Free Wednesday. This is your moment to refresh, reframe, have a little pause to insert a day of alcohol free. Yes, no wine in here in the middle of the week. Now, today I want to talk about something that might be a little bit, I don't know if it's controversial, but it often pops up. Certainly when I'm talking with people. In fact, it pops up all the time when I'm out telling the world what it is I do, because I just want to change the conversation around alcohol. And people say, sorry, so you deal with addicts and you deal with alcohol addiction, right? And it's like, this is really, excuse me, this always starts, and I think, oops. And this is one of the things that keeps people stuck. So the people who would come to me, my audience, are people who struggle, they think they're drinking too much, keeps us stuck. Because if we say anything, it's like, well, does that mean you're an addict? Does that mean? And then sort of we leap to, well, does that mean, you need to go to AA? And it kind of shuts the conversation down. Really, that's what happens, is that we feel judged, or they think, they're not sure if they're judging you. And people just say the word addict and addiction because it's what they associate. So there is sort of no support. And here's what I want to say. If you are in my world, if you relate to the things I talk about, this is not addiction. We are talking about something that is a behavioral habit loop, but it can still feel really hard, right? We can say, oh, okay, I know it isn't that, and I know I'm not sort of physically addicted, but why is it so hard? And this is where I want to talk this week. This is all about mindset. Remember, mindset are the thoughts we think and how our beliefs, and how so much of that drives the bus. So I want to start with, I have hooked out a definition here of addiction that I think is useful because it's very simple. Also, it talks about addiction is a compulsive pattern of use despite harmful consequences, where stopping feels physically or psychologically impossible without help. Now, my clients do not fit into this definition. They are not drinking in the mornings. They're not drinking even every day. They might go for weeks or months without having a drink. They stop for a while and then they start up. And it is not because we have any kind of addiction going on. It's because our brain has associated the feeling that we get from when we drink with something deeper. We have an emotional loop going on, and our work is to really figure out, to clear that all out and see, so really what is the emotional loop? What is the thing that's causing the drinking, right? Because we know this is not an addiction. And what I want to talk about today is there are two main levels of resistance that we might have coming on. I remember thinking, why is this so hard? The first is we have some surface level thoughts about drinking and what it's going to do for us. So it could be, but I like the taste, but it's only one, or I've earned it, or I've deserved it, or I'm so stressed. Anybody who had the day like I would have, they would want this. And the feeling then of not drinking creates some kind of dread if we're not going to have it. Or we could even feel a little bit defiant here. Yeah, I'm justified. I've had a tough day. I feel justified in having a drink. But it doesn't stop there. There's something else going on underneath. Maybe you're thinking that the day I've had is creating a sense of overwhelm. Maybe you're thinking that you're entitled. That's a nice one. I just came off a coaching call talking about this. This sense of entitlement that we have to have a break, to feel good. And all that's happened is that our brain has just learned that when we have those, we have a craving really for those feelings. The way we create that for ourselves is giving ourselves the wine, right? Again, this is not addiction. This is a learned emotional loop. And I know this because then as we go through and we allow these feelings and we go towards these and we start to see this and we start to say, what else do I deserve rather than the wine? And we start to get other answers for ourselves there. The wine bit by bit by bit becomes something that is not so important. I always say, it's always amazing when I'm working with my clients. Yes, we talk about how much they're drinking, and yes, we talk about drink plans, and yes, we talk about numbers. But really, the majority of our time is spent talking about what we are seeking and what is leading up to that. Because when we get full just control, when we can see what we're thinking, and we can allow these feelings, we get absolutely full authority over our actions. We do not have, it is not a struggle to not drink. When you're thinking, I'm feeling really overwhelmed here, but we don't make overwhelm a problem, and we learn how to do that, and I have tools that we learn how to do that, you will not be reaching for the drink, because it just jars. It jars with our new feelings. So, and let's back up here and talk again about these feelings and why we know it's not addiction and so on, and why we get very confused about what's going on. I had a client, I've written out her quote here, and she told me, and this is very common, I hear this a lot, I told myself I wasn't going to drink, but then I thought, well, maybe I could just have a little. And she had the presence of mind, and she said, Anna, I didn't even want it. I was just tired, right? So we're drinking even when we don't want it. And that's it right there. That's the surface level thought, was I could just have a little. But the real cue, the real thing that was driving it was exhaustion. She was tired. She didn't like feeling tired. She wanted rest. She wanted recuperation. She wanted, and while you might say, well, do you think the wine's going to give this? We might say logically no. I hear this all the time, logically no. But actually we have a deep belief, because we have lived experience, that actually if we have a couple of glasses, we are going to feel relieved. And so we attribute the two, the wine is solving that problem, even though it isn't really. And because then we get used to that, and we sort of don't go any further than that. So in this client's case, she knew that wine had been her go-to signal. It's like, it's just going to help me. It's going to stop these feelings of exhaustion and tiredness. Her brain offered it to her automatically. She agreed with it. She went along with it, didn't give herself a chance to then, as she sought to have a different decision. And then we reinforce the loop that we don't want, and we don't give the loop that we want a chance to go forward. So this is the work. This is the power. This is when we start looking, it's like digging for the roots. What is underneath? And that is what's really happening. Wine is often just a shortcut. It's a shortcut from what we're feeling to what we want to feel, because we want to avoid feeling how we are. Right? And this can be because we feel maybe entitled, or because we feel deprived, or we're scared, or those things. But that's what's going on. So I want to reframe this, and I want to call this as it is. So for my clients, the people who are attracted to my work, this is not addiction. This is a highly conditioned habit loop that you're in with an emotional cue. And the good news is this is a learned behavior. And if we learn it, we can unlearn it. We can learn something new. You just need to be able to see what is it you're really asking for. What is your brain really seeking? And give yourself permission to answer that in a new way. So I don't know if anybody's online, if you have got comments that you want to add here sort of as to why you think you have you have the urges to drink, and you want me to look at that and coach you on that a little bit, I'm happy to do that. We've got a few minutes here. Otherwise, one of the things I want you to do sort of for homework is I want you to think, if you, especially as we are making Wednesday wine free, and you really, let's say you really want to go ahead with this, and you'll have some thoughts about, well, a glass of wine will be nice because it's sunny, or because you deserve it, or because your husband's opened the bottle, or I used to, again, I've often spoken on here, I used to have thoughts about having a drink when I saw the characters on the EastEnders soap opera, have a drink. That sounds like a good idea. Right, I'm going for it. So I want you to think, what do I think the wine is going to give me right now? Right. Ask yourself that question and listen to the answer. This is when you're going to start to explore what's going on beneath the surface, beyond, oh, I deserve it, right? Really, what is it you deserve? What is it you think that wine is going to give you? If you do this, it just starts to stretch. I'd say if we've got that, we have this very strong habit loop. We have a big fat line. I used to say between 6 o'clock, getting home at 6 o'clock and drinking was really quick. And then the more we can stretch this out and ask ourselves questions and be inquisitive and curious, right? We are interrupting the pattern, and we're making it harder. We're not looking after the pattern. So what do I think the wine is going to give me right now? And then I'd like you to drop in me. You can either drop them in here, or, okay, so boredom. Boredom is a huge trigger. Yeah, Used to be one for me. So what we want to say is, how do I think the wine is going to change this? So if I'm feeling bored, and what's so wrong with feeling bored? I just came off a coaching call. We were just talking about this. What is your expectation for the evening? Do you expect that you should never be bored? Why are we making boredom a problem? How could we look at boredom differently? If you start to do things, start to ask these questions, you'll start to give yourself answers. And then we start to see that the wine actually isn't solving any of that. It's just patching over, right? So we can, and then all we teach ourselves is, if we feel bored, I need wine. Rather than, if I feel bored, I've got some skills, I can look at it differently, so I don't need the wine. Little by little by little, we will stop doing that. So when the time comes and we have the thoughts, maybe I'm bored, or we have the thoughts, or it's 6 o'clock, and we just want to name how we're feeling. We want to ask, what do I think the wine is going to give me right now? How do I think the wine is going to solve my boredom, for instance? Listen to the answer, and is that right? Do we believe that? What would we want to think instead? We can believe anything we like. If we want to go around thinking, as I did for years, that the wine livens up my evenings, I'm then going to be stuck in the habit of using wine to liven up my evening. I'm going to start to believe myself. But if I start to call myself out on that, that gives me room to think something different. And the minute we start to think something different, we start to feel different, and then we'll take different action. And this is the work. This is what all happens, and then we will not be reaching so much for the wine. So it's about building awareness and seeing that loop. All right, so that was all that. I also wanted to tell you about, so if any of you who have read my book, I've got a book out, The Off Switch, but I also have an app. It's a free app. It's on the App Store and it's on the Play Store. It's called The Off Switch app. And this is not just a drink planning app. It does start out like that. It has plans, and it's about evaluating your plans. But I have got something new in there. I've got a thing in there called Annie, which is Anna Inside, and it's real-time coaching. It's real-time coaching. You can go and you can ask your questions about your plans. You can ask your questions about, I'm uncertain about this. So for instance, you could go in and say, I'm really feeling very bored. What should I do right now? And Annie, who's been trained on all of my materials, will give you answers. She'll help you. She'll coach you through it. It's actually really cool. So I just encourage you all to go out there. It's going to be a paid feature at some point, but right now it's free. And it's there for you to use, and let me know how you get on. Otherwise, if you want to put your comments below this video, I'm very happy. I read them all. I'm happy to respond to them. But that was Wine Free Wednesday for this week, and I'm going to dash off now and go and get some dinner without wine. All right, so I'll see you all next week. Thanks.